I was reading all these like old school sales books, and it just made me feel bad. But then I realized, I was like, I can just have a conversation. So I developed,
Yep.
can I share actually like a little framework or whatever?
Yeah, go for it, dude. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it was like
Yeah.
a simple framework that I even use to this day. I showed my buddy Mike, who closes deals for us now. And it makes you not seem pushy. So
Awesome. I love it.
as soon as people get on a call with me, thank you for coming on the call. Is it still a good time to talk? Yes, good, good, good. So the way I like to break down our call is in two parts. That way we get the most value out of this. Part one.
Carlos Redlich. Is it Redlich or Redlich? How do I say it?
You were right the first time.
Redlich. Carlos Redlich. Welcome to the Chris Haddad Show, or Chris Haddad Show. You can say it however you want.
So I was going to ask you the same thing. I was like, so which one is it?
You can do whatever you want. I'm from Massachusetts, so it's Haddad in Massachusetts because that's where I'm from. But as I said before, on the West Coast, people can't say Haddad, and I don't know why. But if I say Chris Haddad to people on the West Coast, they go, Chris Haddad. And I'm like, Haddad. They're like, haddock? I'm like, I'm not a fish. They just can't get it. So over the years, I have learned to be accepting of Haddad and Haddad and whatever else people want to say, but that's okay. Where do you live, Carl? I've known you. How long have we known each other? It must be a long time now.
A while, man. Yeah. A while. I mean, I've probably known of you more than you've known of me because I remember studying your stuff. But I live in Arizona, in this little area called Chandler, Arizona. So nice. That's where I'm at now.
Cool.
But we probably got to know each other, or at least connected when I was still living in Florida. I'm not sure. Most likely though, because I remember I used to own a martial arts school with my buddy Vit Singh.
Oh, wow. Okay. What kind of martial arts?
I taught Muay Thai, and then he taught submission wrestling and Muay Thai as well. So nice. We had that in Jacksonville. And then I remember just studying a bunch of copywriters back then. And I'm almost positive you were one of them.
So that was like that was for your gym, basically? You were like,
for my gym. Yeah. It was just to grow my own school. And I was like, well, these people are making tons of money, like, writing copy and all this stuff. Maybe I can do it for my business, right? So that's actually one of the ways I got into copywriting, was just to promote my own martial arts school.
Yeah, that's a great way to, people come into it in two different ways, right? A couple different ways. They either they're in-person salespeople who decide, hey, I want to stop doing calls all the time and just actually do this. Or they're writers like me. I was more of a writer than anything back in the day. Or they're like business owners who were just like, well, screw it, man, I'm going to do this myself, and then figure out they're good at it and go off and do more. So
it's interesting. I feel like almost a combo of all of them, because when I first started getting interested in copywriting, it was actually before I started my martial arts school, but I didn't really it was interesting because I looked at it almost like a personal development tool, because when I was learning martial art from my instructor Dwight Woods in Miami years ago, I was maybe 18 or 19 when I'm 35 now. It's probably 18 or 19 when I first heard of the word copywriting.
You don't look a day over 16. That's pretty weird.
Thanks, man. So when I was starting to teach at his school, I was really bad. I couldn't communicate. I mean, I was a good puncher and kicker, but I was like a knuckle dragger. I couldn't teach people how to do the thing I was good at. And so we tried tons of different stuff, from like role playing, and Dwight would be like, just teach me. Let's try this. Just teach me before we get on stage, right? Nothing worked. And then he was very big into the Glazer Kennedy marketing world.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So he was like, you know what? I grew my school by learning this thing called copywriting and just applying it to my website and my postcards and things like that. Maybe you can just learn how to communicate with people because of this thing called copywriting, because you don't have to have the pressure of selling people face to face.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Teach me through writing an email. So he taught me copywriting, and that was my way of learning how to teach martial art. Well, eventually, years down the line, I was about 24, 25 years old. My buddy Vit Singh and we ended up starting our own school 300 miles away in Jacksonville.
Oh, wow.
We didn't want to compete with Dwight. It's just not an honorable.
That makes sense.
Thing, right? So we moved, hundreds of miles away, started a school there. And that's when I realized, oh, this copywriting thing can actually help me with growing a school too, not just,
Instead of just learning how to communicate.
Yeah. So it's funny when you mention, I'm I feel kind of a blend of all of them. Cause I was bad at sales, but I learned sales through copywriting and just through self-development essentially. So it's funny when you mention those three ways that people get into this world.
It's interesting. I'm doing some sales calls right now, right? So I'm doing my as the pig method thing. We've moved it over to a phone funnel, or an application funnel into a call funnel, and I'm doing the actual calls right now, which is funny because I haven't done in-person sales in 20 years, right, or something like that. So I'm just oh yeah. I remember how to do this, but I remember how to do it. It's fun. I'm doing, I've sold 90% of the calls I've done, which is pretty great. But also I'm just like, man, I got so spoiled writing copy all these years. I'm like, I'm saying the same shit I said in the last call. I have to do the same thing over again instead of just being like, I write it once, I say it once, it goes off into the world.
Hey, go watch this video, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I already did the work. Why do I have to do it for you again? But
yeah, I've gotten a lot of people telling me the pig method, they love it. One of my buddies, Andrew Purdue, he said, dude, it's worth every single penny. That's single awesome, penny. Dude. It's so good. So kudos to you, man, because you made a really kick-ass course.
Yeah, it's fun. I was talking to a new student this morning. I did a phone call this morning, or a Zoom call this morning with a student, and I'm selling him the course. And it's interesting because I said to him, I'm like, listen, I've been doing this a long time. And as a copywriter marketer who's done this a long time, I have, sold some things I didn't believe in over the years. Right. I've written copy for products, like especially early on in your career. I wrote copy for products I didn't really believe in. I wrote copy for products for clients I didn't even like, basically, and didn't really want to see become successful because I thought they were unethical. But when you're early on, you do what you got to do. But I'm selling my stuff now, right? I'm selling Chris Haddad Pig Method stuff. And I'm like, I feel embarrassed saying it, but here's the testimonials, man. Like you want me to put you in touch with 5 of my students, all of whom will say amazing things and tell you should definitely get into it. It's incredibly gratifying, but it's also like embarrassingly easy. Like I'm so used to like being in the niches, man, like I'm going to earn that $47. We're going to do all this shit. And now I'm like, oh, this is thousands of dollars, but it's a much easier thing.
I'm curious because you've done a lot of stuff. Like you just mentioned, like the niches and whatnot. You're big in the dating space. Are you still doing stuff in that space?
Yeah, it's on, we're not pumping a lot of energy into that particular business right now. It's still going, it still pays the bills. It keeps things at a simmer, but we're really focused on building out this brand right now more than anything. And it's interesting making it me instead of making it Michael Fiore.
Well, that's okay. So that was kind of my question here. We're going to flip the script on this podcast.
No, dude, the key of the podcast is it's a conversation, not an interview. So whatever you want to do, we can do it. Yeah.
So what made you want to switch from making a bunch of money in that space and going into the copywriting space? I feel like it would just be way easier to keep doing what you're doing. Maybe not, I don't know, but
it was easy. I lost my passion for it more than anything. Like I got sick of. I didn't really want to be Michael Fiore anymore. I didn't want to. I had my PR agent, some other people being, hey, do you want to like write a book and go off and try to get on television again and whatever else? I'm like, I've said everything I feel like I wanted to say in that particular niche, right? From a creative standpoint. And people have been asking me to teach marketing stuff for years and years, and I've always been resistant to it. One of the reasons why is because I as you know, many people who teach copywriting don't know what they're doing and have never, and are not particularly good copywriters and have never had anything succeed really. But they're like, I'm a copywriter, I'm going to teach people. So I don't know. I feel like I have such a prejudice against people who do that, who teach make money, but have only ever made money by teaching make money, that I think I went too far the other way for a while. And then eventually people are like, hey, we'll give you a bunch of money to teach this stuff. And you're like, well, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. So the goal, we'll start off with the copywriting stuff, and then eventually, hopefully, it'll expand out of that. I don't want to be, the issue that I'm running into that I have to think about a lot is I have a huge reputation in copywriting. Obviously, it's a huge name, but I also don't want to get pigeonholed. I'm also a marketer. I've done a lot of things outside of just writing the copy. So long term, I have to figure out the right way to keep from being pigeonholed. Luckily, there are people out there who have done a similar thing, so I can kind of follow along in their footsteps.
Yeah. Well, it's just cool to see the journey, man. Because I remember it mainly following online. Like you had some interesting periods in your life. It looked like you've just grown, man. It's cool to see the growth over the last few years, not just like business wise, but just emotionally. You seem a lot more like, I don't know what the word is, maybe in control.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Getting stable has been a wonderful thing. I'm a fan. And even like doing this podcast, right? Like people ask me why I do the podcast. I'm like, we have hundreds of listeners now. Hopefully that'll go to thousands over time. It's also like I get to hang out with cool people and just like shoot the shit for an hour. So that's fun. It's also just like really good for my mental health to have something like this to do. It reminds me, I don't spend a lot of time in the business world. So like being around people who respect me for what I know how to do and such, and being able to like rub my brain against people who also understand this stuff is very healthy and very good for me. So
do you ever get interested in like, let me bring it.
Yeah.
I'll compare it with what I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
when I was, I don't know, I got into poker. I don't know if you've noticed this,
I
but
played poker. Yeah.
yeah, so I got really into poker over the last few years. And the thing that really caught my interest in it was like, I felt like I was a new entrepreneur again, where it's like when I first got started in like, even with my gym, when I first got started with my martial arts school, our goal, just like any copywriter's goal, is for the most part, is like, let me make 10 grand a month. Like that was my first thing. Like,
oh yeah,
let's
yeah.
do that, right? And I felt that as a martial arts school owner. I felt that when I was starting my copywriting journey. And then after a while, it's like I stopped having like goals like that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like monetary goals. It was like, what's an extra X amount of dollars going to really like do for my life? I stopped really getting
people have asked me before, when people post on Facebook, sometimes they're like, if somebody deposited $100 million into your bank account tomorrow, how would you change your life? I'm like, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, like I like my life. I don't really want to spend all my, like, I don't want to own a plane. I don't want to like have a giant mansion. And like, I like my life and I think it's a great, but I hear what you're saying though, like keeping motivated once you kind of get to that point of comfort can be really difficult unless you are like, if you like yourself and are a reasonably well-adjusted person, keeping motivated after you reach that level of comfort is difficult. If you do not like yourself and are trying to fill a giant void inside yourself, then you just keep trying to make more and more money. Right?
That's man. So that's where I was. That's really interesting how you put
Yeah.
that. Because I felt like when I was first starting out, I had to prove everybody wrong.
Yep.
I was like, I got to prove my family wrong, that they think you have to have this degree, or all these people. I had to prove all these people wrong. But eventually, I didn't really give a fuck. I was like, I actually want to bring them up because some of these people who I wanted to prove wrong, they're just good people. They cared about me. They love me. They just didn't know another way. And now I know another way. Let me help them. But I was just, I had no one to prove wrong anymore. And it's not like I really cared to prove myself right, because I was where I wanted to be. But anyways, going back.
Well, you've already proven yourself right, though, right? Like it's a similar thing. I'm just like, again, I feel very comfortable in who I am at this point. I feel comfortable in my my accomplishments. I'm not intimidated by anybody anymore at this point in my life. Like I've met people who have billions of dollars. I'm like, nice to meet you, man. How you doing? It's like, it just isn't like, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, that's so for me, the poker stuff was what kind of brought that back, because I realized that you can, it's not like pure gambling, right? Like you can actually be
there's a game to it. Yeah.
There's a game to it. You can actually make a profit every single month. Like you can, depending on your stakes, you can make $2 grand a month, $3 grand a month, 10 grand a month, whatever it is, but you can do it consistently. If you play enough, you have the skill, you practice, all that good stuff. So that kind of like got me back interested in like hitting like different goals. Like I want to make my first grand a month just playing poker. You know what I mean? Yep. And now I'm starting a little poker offer with my buddy who showed me how to play poker, because he's a poker player, professional poker player. And I was like, you could teach this. Like you taught me how to be a winning player and I was horrible. Like you showed me how to be profitable. We could like teach this shit. Like we can make money. And it just like revitalized, or whatever the word, I just got sparked again. I was like, man, I can like, now I'm interested. I'm not just selling random things online, because I was jumping into different niche markets that I just didn't really care about, but I was making a lot of money. Like I'm not a religious person, but I had a religious offer. I was doing almost 100 grand a month at the time. And it's like, it just wasn't.
You just don't care, man.
I don't care. Yeah, it wasn't a thing. So
I had a buddy, probably you might even know him, a good friend of mine. I wanted to get on Skype earlier this week, and we talked for a while. We're catching up, and he's like, Chris, man, like I see people making these supplement offers on ClickBank that are doing amazing. There's only like 5 copywriters at a high enough level out there who can do that shit. I want you to do this with me. We'll split the offer. You can make a lot of money. I'm like, no. And he was like, what do you mean? No, like we could make, like, there's so much money. I'm like, no. And he's like, why not? I'm like, cause I don't give a shit. Cause I just don't care. I don't like that niche. I don't care about that niche. I just don't care. And I'm not going to like, and I've tried to care, right? I've tried over the last 5 or 6 years doing offers with different people, some of whom, which have been quite successful, to be like, okay, I care. I just don't care. And if I don't care, I can't fucking do it. I'm doing this other stuff where I'm teaching stuff and I'm like, this isn't work. This is easy. This is just like, let's go do it because it's fun and I'm enjoying the work. Like I even with this stuff, it dawned on me the other day that doing all this stuff, teaching the copywriting and marketing stuff, it will probably turn into a decent amount of money. It hadn't even dawned on me to think about that. Right. Yeah. I was more just like, well, this is what I'm doing. I want to do a good job. It's my name on it, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do? I mean, do you have any other than like maybe just living life and now getting like sparked with ideas? Do you have anything that kind of recharges you whenever you go through those periods where like, I'm not that interested in this anymore? Like you went and started teaching copywriting, like because you weren't as interested in the dating space anymore. Correct. So like, do you do things to kind of stay fresh like that, or is just life happening? You're like,
life just happens, man. Life just happens. And like, I've never been a goal setter, right? Like, it's weird that I got where I got, cause I'm not a goal setter. I never sat down and said, I want to make millions as a copywriter. I never sat down and said, I want to be an entrepreneur. I never sat down and said, I wanted to go on Rachel. I never, I was just like
counterintuitive.
Yeah. I'm more just like, well, this thing that I'm doing is working. Let's do more of it. Was really that's the entire thing. And that's what I kind of did. So I've always felt like I don't really fit in with entrepreneurs that well, right? In a weird way, because like I'm a creative person who got into business because it's a fun way to express creativity and make money, as opposed to being like I wasn't the guy in high school who was like Julian Ray is like selling drugs in high school to start his whole first business, right? Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's pretty cool.
No, but I think again, so it's weird, like, in this business, so many people that are talking about crushing it and you got to do this and got to do that. And I'm like, not really. You could go a totally different path and just try to make enough money to live a good life. And, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Things are just, I don't know, man. I think as you evolve too, like in your own business and life, things just take different priority. Like,
you do. Yeah.
This is going to sound like a cliche because I feel like a lot of parents say this, but like when I had my daughter a year ago, I'm like, wow, I always thought people were BS and like, oh my God, shit, just everything changed.
No, I believe it.
You have your kids. I was like, get the fuck out of here. That's not true. Yeah. Like, you're still you. But it's interesting because it didn't happen like an instant to me. So when I had my daughter, I was like, everything's still the same. I love her, obviously, but things haven't changed. But like now that a year's passed, like my whole concern is like, her safety, having a good place to live. That equates to like, sure, I have to make a good amount of money because now I have to provide for her too and create a good atmosphere for her. But it's not because I want to make a lot of money. It has nothing to do with the money.
It's not about your self-aggrandizement. It's not about your ego. It's about like it's self, actually this is like happiness. Like people ask, how do you be happy? Right. And the key to being happiness is care about other people more than you care about yourself.
That's really interesting. I feel like I'm only just now starting to learn that.
It took me a long time to get there, right? To be able to be like, I care way more. If you spend more time thinking about helping other people like ask me, they're like, Chris, you're so responsive people message me on Facebook. They say, I'm bipolar too. Here's what I'm dealing with. Can you help me out? People just write me shit and I get back to them and somebody was like, why do you do that? I'm like, because it makes me happy. Because like helping other people, I am being incredibly selfish by helping other people because science has shown us that is what makes people happy.
Yeah.
Like if you're selfish, you will not be happy. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. I'm only now figuring this out. So it's like me going through my own growth. And I'm like, it's so weird. Like, I feel like my mind and priorities have changed only like a year ago, just a year ago. And it's just, I'm like operating differently. Like, I don't want to do certain things that were making money before. It just doesn't, it's like, I don't really care about that shit. It's just really weird.
Motivation is a really interesting concept, right? Because like when I got really sick with my bipolar stuff, there were several years there I had no motivation at all. I just could not going to my desk was like, slitting my wrist with razor blades and all this other kind of shit. I just couldn't fucking do it. And then I look at the work I'm doing now and I woke up at 5 this morning and I worked on some things. I'm doing a podcast with you now. I did a sales call and it's just kind of felt like I have no problem being motivated at all doing this stuff, right? So I think a lot of times if you're feeling that block where you can't get something done, it's because it isn't the right thing for you to be doing at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So true, man. So true. So what's like I know you don't have goals, but you've got plans, I think, for like what you're doing in the copywriting space.
Sure.
What do you have any like goals to, and I hate using the word goal now, but do you have any ideas of doing like in-person masterminds and like retreats? Because you've blown this thing up. The P method is literally just blown up.
It has, yeah.
I feel like you could very easily create in-person events where it would just be really cool.
I want to scare the fuck out of people is what I want to do.
How do you mean?
I miss it. I miss people being scared of me, right? I'm a really nice guy. I am.
The first time I met you, you gave me a hug. You're a super nice guy.
That makes total sense.
Great.
Yeah. But I have the competitive side of me took a break for a while there, and I have a pretty strong competitive side. And back in the day in the relationship advice niche, whatever niche I went into, people were like, fuck, generally speaking, right? Or they were like, fuck, and then they were happy about it because they're like, oh, well, he's going to get more people in the niche. We're going to I'll make more money as affiliates or whatever.
Yeah, but they were like, fuck, I wish I was on my.
Yeah, but it was fun being the 800-pound gorilla. It was fun just being like walking into a room and being like, hey, man, like I'm better than this than you are. And here's what we're going to do. I think there's a lot of, I think that I haven't paid attention to copywriting in a long time, and especially the education aspect of it. And I think there's a giant hole that I am happy to fill. And that hole has to do with, I think I have a different way of doing it than most people, but also like, I'm not a right-wing, Elon is a god, whatever, right? Like I'm just not, and I never will be. And there are a hell of a lot of people who don't find that interesting or attractive, right? Like there's plenty of people that are like, no, I don't think a billionaire should be making all of the decisions in life or whatever. And those people can come to me, and I'm more than happy to teach them how to do this in a way that doesn't make you feel like a son of a bitch and an asshole all the time. So, yeah.
I like it, man. I like it. I like that you're just so raw and honest about it, because that's what's going to attract those people to you also.
It's all part of the deal. It's all part of the deal. It's something I think about, right? It's like people ask me why I'm so, this is becoming much more you interviewing me, but we'll change that. But
okay. I'm interested. That's why I asked. I'm like, can I just ask?
People who listen to the show want to hear me talk too, so it's fine. I forget what I was saying, but either way, no, I mean, I am, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it. Right? Like I've been reluctant to do this for a long time. I've been reluctant to put myself out there. I do find the attention kind of uncomfortable in a way, which is new for me, because in the past I used to love attention, but like we said before, I like myself a lot more now than I used to. I don't need that the same way. I don't need that validation the same way. So I find it uncomfortable, but I'm really good at it. And I enjoy, like Moni just got on stage in front of 2,000 people in Mexico, and like, I'm insanely proud of her. It feels really good, right? I mean, it feels really good seeing people that I've had an impact on get out there. Yeah.
That's sick, dude. Mm-hmm. That's sick. Yeah, I found like one of the reasons I never really decided to teach copy as much as like the business side of copywriting is because I was like, I feel like there's already so many people who are teaching copy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, I mean, although I write copy and I convert for my offers, I'll do it for my clients. It's not like my superpower. My superpower, even when I was first starting out, was figuring out how to get clients and then how to close them. And I've always tried doing like the simplest way. Like even right now, for example, like I have a simple little story ad that I put on Instagram that's super basic. There's nothing crazy about it. It literally says, attention business owners, want someone to write your emails, Facebook ads, etc. Send me a DM that says copy or some shit. Very simple. And then all I do is I target like female entrepreneur. I found that female entrepreneurs tend to buy for at least from me a lot more. I don't think it has to do with me. They're just more they make the decision faster. I don't really know what it is. Whenever I talk to a guy, it's like they got to go think about it and shit.
Yeah, they hem and haw.
But the woman, when she gets on the call with me, she's already made the decision of, she just needs to make sure like I'm not a scumbag or something. That's what I feel. I don't know, but
they're not trying to be sold as much as like they're confirming it's a real human being who's going to be there.
Right. So that was kind of like that's an example. Like that's kind of been my like superpower in the copywriting space.
Well, it's a great sub niche to carve out. And actually my students too, like I spend a fair amount of my coaching calls talking about negotiating with clients and all that kind of fun stuff. It's funny what you said though, about like, there's so many people teaching copywriting, and somebody was like, oh, Chris, there's so many people teaching. Are you afraid of the competition? I'm like, but I'm me. What do you mean?
But I'm me.
Like there's no other Chris Haddad in copyright. Like, I mean, well, not to be totally egotistical, but I'm like, what I teach is different than everybody else. So I'm not like worried about, some other person or whatever. It's not just a style thing. It's whatever else. So like, as far as the, I know you transitioned from writing copy to teaching copywriters. What kind of motivated that? How was that transition for you? And what's the goal now?
Yeah, so that actually came from like these types of ads. When I first did it was because I was doing the same type of thing I'm doing on Instagram stories, but I was doing it on Facebook, which is different ads and shit, like very, very simple ads. I've always done very simple ads to get the leads because I knew my my power was being able to get on a phone call with them.
Yep.
And like when I smile and just give them the real,
You do have the widest smile of any man I've ever met in my entire life. It's impressive. It's impressive. Your cheeks, like there's a giant, like multicolored $100 bill behind Carlos, and I can only see the very edge of it because of the sheer width of his smile. It's impressive. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
But so that's what I kind of realized. I was like, whenever I can speak with someone, because I'm not like BSing them, I'm just telling them what the offer is, and I'm smiling, and there's no like real crazy sales maneuvering here and shit.
No hard selling. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that difficult. So anyways, so how did I get into teaching copywriting was I started closing more deals than I could actually fulfill, and had to refund a couple of people because I just couldn't fulfill it. It was,
so you were just like getting so many clients for yourself because that's a thing actually too. Because when I was freelancing back in the day, I spent more time prospecting than writing, right? Like every single month when I was, when I didn't have any of my own offers, any kind of passive or semi-passive income at all, it was just like every month I'm like, I better get on a plane. I better go to a conference. I better do this. Yeah.
That's what I was doing. I was getting on planes and I was going to conferences and going to, that's actually where we met, was at TNC, because I didn't even have money to get into TNC. So I just hung out at the bar with a joint in my ear, because that would have cracked. That totally would. Yeah. And so that's how I made my business.
That's a great way of doing it.
Afford the flight and the hotel for like 2 days. I couldn't afford the mastermind. So that's what I did.
I mean, I never go to the event anyway. I just show up to party. Like,
yeah, it's pretty much. Well, a lot of people are like that. I met like Damian Rufus at that. I met like 10, 15 people, all from that event specifically, but doing those things. But I got tired of doing that. It was like exhausting. I thought that's what you had to do to get business. That's what I thought. I didn't really know. So I went there, then I started trying to speak on different stages, and that got me business too. But it was just, I'm not an extrovert. So that, some people, whenever they get in front of a lot of people, they get like extra charged up. I get drained. I mean, by the end of the day, I am just about to pass out. There's no more smile. It's just passing out. And so I'm like the opposite of that. So I was like fighting against the grain doing this. I'm like, I'm getting business, but I'm like miserable doing this shit. Like, I am not looking forward to flying to go speak somewhere.
And most copywriters are the same way, right? Like back in the day, I mean, I've been good at this for a long time, but I honestly think the biggest reason I was able to make my career as big as it was early on was just like, I'm willing to go to the bar and bullshit with people. Right? Like go to the conference and get drunk with folks, go to the strip club, even though you don't really want to. Like just go and like be one of the guys or be a part of the gig. But a lot of copywriters are very introverted and find that entire concept terrifying.
Well, I was one of them. So I was one of them. I was like, I have to eat anyways. Like I have to, I don't know any other way to get money. So I'm going to just keep doing this. So but eventually, like that just kept draining me, and I saw people running little ads on Facebook, and I'm like, why can't I do that? Like people talk about copywriting being the superpower. In my mind, it wasn't the superpower, because I'm fucking slaving away while these people who could run traffic were like the real superpower people. But that
the grass is always greener, though, dude. Right? Like,
exactly.
There's always. I know plenty of media buyers who are like, man, if I could only write copy. I know plenty of copywriters who wish they could own offers. And
yes. So I learned that afterwards. My buddy Brandon, he's really great at running traffic, but he would always need me to write the copy for his ads. I was like, it just goes hand in hand. But I realized, I was like, you don't have to be like expert level traffic, person or whatever. You can just get a good message, put it in front of people, and that's basically it. So what I was doing, to go back to like this copywriting thing and why I was transitioning, is because when I was running those ads on Facebook and then again on Instagram, I started having I was getting clients, but I was refunding some of them because I just couldn't fulfill it.
Get it done,
and I didn't want my name to get like tarnished. So instead. And then
I'm glad you care about that, because it seems like a lot of people don't these days about their name.
It's
a whole other topic.
It's one of my biggest fears, because it's like, it's not a big world. I mean, you can go to a seminar, and I actually remember seeing this when I would go to seminars, and people were avoiding each other and stuff because somebody refunded or didn't refund this person, and they're or
somebody didn't pay an affiliate.
And it's like some of these guys had to walk around with like security and shit. Like I was like, that's horrible, dude. Like I would hate to do that. I would hate that. It sucked. So that's always been a little fear. I'm like, this is a small world of like 1,000 people. Like it's not that big. But anyway, so I started outsourcing to different copywriters, and it wasn't really working the way I wanted. Sometimes they would just take the money and disappear for 4 weeks while they're writing. And I was like, what's going on? Now I feel like the client. So I wasn't good at that. And And what I ended up doing, I was like, I'm fed up with this. I'm just going to start charging copywriters to join my mentorship. So I show them how I'm getting clients, but they're probably not going to want to go try and do all this getting client stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
a lot
can
of work.
it's a lot. Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. It's just spending money on ads or the organic method, whatever. But
well, most copywriters find the idea of spending a dime of their own money terrifying.
Correct.
By the way, for those of you who are listening, if you want to get really good at marketing, put your own fucking money on the line.
That's so true, man.
Yeah, you'll get good fast, or you won't do it anymore.
That's when I started realizing simple worked better, because I was trying a bunch of complex things that weren't working. And then I was like, you know what, if I could just get people on a phone call with me, that's all I really need.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started doing the simple stuff. But the everything good?
I'm just raising my desk.
So I'm sorry. I didn't know if you, okay, gotcha.
Like, so everything looks weird on the screen. Now I was raising my desk up so I can, gotcha, so I can stand at my, I don't do the sitting down thing very well.
No, it's better for you to stand from what I've been told.
It is, yeah.
So, but yeah, so I mean, that's what kind of sparked it all. And I started just training other copywriters on how to like get clients like what I was doing. And some of them did it. Some of them applied the strategies, got clients. Yep. What ended up happening selfishly for me is that I now had like a big pool of copywriters that trusted me, that I could outsource to. They would submit copy to me on a weekly basis so I could critique it. So I know who's like just starting out, who's like pro level, who's really good, but isn't really yet, you know, making a bunch of money that I can give them a shot. And it's like, I get great copy at a great price. So that's how I started the mentorship. It was selfish because I needed people to write for me, and I was doing a good job outsourcing it because.
And now you have them paying you to write for you. So
well, that was the thing. Yes. And I still pay them. So
sure, of course. Yeah.
So they pay, you know, whatever to join the mentorship group. I teach them some stuff. And then whenever I have projects, I just hire from within the group. So
makes total sense. Yeah.
I don't know, like 10 different copywriters, not a lot because they have like 100 something, but like there's like a steady 10 that get all my business now. Like they've just always fulfilled this. Buddy, one of my guys, Rami, he's really good writer, works within my little budget, but he's fast. He's honorable. This guy will like always have my business.
Fast and honorable. I like that. Fast, honorable copy. It's cool.
Yeah, fast and honorable copy. And it's good. It's good copy too, right? But yeah, so that's kind of how I started transitioning into it, because I was like, I don't want to teach copy, but I'm really good at just getting this client stuff. And I see people always posting, how do I get clients? How do I get clients? I'm like, I can show that.
I think it's an incredibly, I mean, when I got started back in the day, I joined Harlan Kilstein's mentoring group way back in the day, like 16, 18 years ago. And I did not learn how to write copy from Harlan particularly. You know, I learned that from Carlton and David Garfinkel and a bunch of others. And I Harlan pointed me at things to learn from. But what Harlan taught me is how to get the fucking job. Right, in the first place, like how to negotiate the deal, what kind of contract to do, like how to prospect, all that other kind of stuff. And I think it is a skill set. It's funny because copywriters are theoretically salesmen, but they are so afraid to sell.
Yeah,
right? Like they're so afraid to sell ourselves as opposed to whatever product we're selling. It's really interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, I kind of understand it. I mean, I definitely understand it because I started off using copy as like a self-development tool, and then so I get it, but eventually I feel like you can just start talking copy and that kind of, it just kind of becomes you. And now you're just having a conversation. You're not trying to like do any like gimmicks. I think the big thing that when I was starting out as a copywriter and trying to sell copywriting services, I didn't want to seem like, I don't know, like a pushy sales guy, sleazy sales guy. I just didn't like that. And that's kind of how I felt, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was reading all these like old school sales books, and it just made me feel bad. But then I realized, I was like, I can just have a conversation. So I developed, can I share it? Actually, like a little framework or whatever?
Yeah, go for it, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
It was like a simple framework that I even use to this day. I showed my buddy Mike, who closes deals for us now. And it makes you not seem pushy. So
awesome. I love it.
As soon as people get on a call with me, thank you for coming on the call. Is it still a good time to talk? Yes. Good. So the way I like to break down our call is in 2 parts. That way we get the most value out of this. Part 1, I want to figure out everything that's going on in your business, what the problems are, what you're looking to accomplish, really dissect that. And then on part 2 of the call, go over how we can help you, what the investment would look like, how long it may take for you to get results, and what happens if you don't see results. Is that a good plan to go forward with? And they say yes. I say great. Now we start with part 1 of the call, where I just ask a bunch of questions.
I like how you're setting the structure early,
the biggest
and getting their buy-in. Yeah,
that's exactly it. The biggest part of it is now there's no. The biggest part that was hard for me was transitioning to the sale, but now there's no difficult part with that, because now when I answer all of their questions, do the whole diagnosis part on part 1, I say, Good. So I think we have a really solid idea of where you're trying to go. Do you mind if I transition to part 2 of the call where I talk about how we can help you, the investment, and all those other questions you might have? Yeah, absolutely. Great. So here's what that would look like. And I say whatever it is. But just and so whatever, there's no script, right? It doesn't, there's no,
and they don't feel like they're being, I'm doing a similar thing in the calls I'm doing now, right? Because again, I haven't done in-person sales in many years. Yeah. And I'm just like, I guess I'll just get on the phone and chat with people and shoot the shit and hear about what they're looking for. And then at a certain point I say, yeah, this is probably for you. Do you want to hear about the course? And then they say yes. And I go, okay, let me list it out for you. And it's very kind of, what do you think the main differences are between selling in person and selling in copy at this point? I mean, do you think it's a significantly different muscle or not?
Selling in person or selling versus in copy. I mean, when you're in person or on a Zoom call, I find it's obviously a lot easier because you can really look at them. It's almost like poker tells, right? Like they're covering their mouth or doing stuff and scratching like there's different things if they're feeling uncomfortable. So you can address it. I'm a big fan of just addressing the issue straight on rather than just pretend it's not there. So I've done it on calls where I'd say like the investment is $5,000 for this. And here's and you can see their face just like, you know, I say, your body just kind of shifted a little bit. Is it because the $5,000 price tag? Is it something else? What is it that made you feel that way? And I'm very calm and I just smile and ask them that. And they tell me what the issue is. And I just overcome the issue, right? Maybe that means a payment plan. Maybe that just means, listen, it's a good idea. Here's some testimonials we've
guarantee, whatever it's
but I just listen to them. But as soon as I see they're pulling back, as soon as I see that, I know nothing I say now is it's not gonna matter anyway because they're already pulling back. So I have to address that issue first and let their guard come back down because it just shot the fuck back up. So I'm like, what happened, man? What happened between 2 minutes ago and right now?
Whereas in copy, you can't see what's going on at all. You're
exactly. Like, well, that's why I think bullet points are so important in copy because you don't know. I heard John Carlton talk about this. When you don't know which one is going to hit. That's why it's like bullets. You know, one of them is going to hit.
Well, it's interesting in bullets though because like you know, in long form sales copy, I would have tons of bullets, tons of them, right? Just like get as many as you can, put it on the page. For a VSL, it's a little bit of a different thing, right? You kind of got to figure out. You got to pick your spots a bit more. And typically, I would have like 10 to 12 bullets instead of 20 or 30 or something like that. I might have in a long form sales copy in the past. It's an interesting balance. How do you, since you were in copywriting, this is a copywriting focused episode, unlike some of the other ones. How do you teach people to charge what they're worth? How do you teach people to be able to say to a client, this will be $5,000, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand? Like what is, because again, I know when I was starting out, that was terrifying, right? Back in the day. And I know it's still terrifying for a lot of people now. What kind of advice do you give?
So there's two types of things that you want to do. The first thing is if you've never written copy, like ever, you've never written an email, you've never written for a client, you've never done any of that. I mean, you really shouldn't even be charging anybody yet. You should just go write some shit for free.
They shouldn't be going out and charging 10 grand for something and then refusing to make edits when it doesn't convert.
Yeah, exactly. That's
like some people I've heard of.
No, you shouldn't do that stuff. You shouldn't do that. That's why, I mean, I tell them, if you're just starting out, like your best thing is just write a bunch of shit for free for the first 30 days, depending on where their skill level. If they've already got some skill, but they've never gotten a client, I'm like, good, man, this is the easiest deal. Cause like, you don't even have to get a client. You just have to get someone to say yes to some free work, which is the easiest thing.
And they may or may not use it, but you know,
they may not use it, but at least what you're going to do is get some testimonials. You're going to get some feedback. But the main thing is those testimonials. This is one part of the two things that I'll answer. So you got to get some testimonials. The reason why is because those testimonials, I used to not believe them. So I had to just keep rewatching them over and over again to make myself feel good, because I was like, I suck at copy. Why would anyone pay me fucking $2 grand or $5 grand for copy? But I wrote some shit for free for somebody. And then they're like, oh my God, this is really good. I loved his professionalism. I liked this, that, and the other thing. And I'll just rewatch that video over and over and over again, because I need to like program myself.
That makes sense, actually. Really, that's like affirmations, but you're having somebody else do it.
Somebody else is doing it. Yeah, it's just.
Well, that's like somebody. I did a video, a short video for social media the other day about the imposter complex, right? And people were saying like, and people are always shocked when somebody at my level or your level or whatever says, "Yes, I have the imposter complex." We all do. Unless you're a sociopath, you will get the imposter complex at some point. It's just the way it is. People are like, "How do you get over it?" I'm like, "Well, the way I got over it in copywriting is by getting a lot of money in exchange for doing it, basically, right? Like I wrote enough things that did well. And then when I did my own offers, I was like, I've seen other offers that I promoted and this is doing better. So I must actually be good at it, as opposed to like what I love about marketing is you will find out if you're any good or not. You just will.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
hiding. There's no hiding at all. Like either you're good or you're not.
Yeah, 100%. And you can get better. It's a learnable skill. It's a
Yeah.
learnable skill. So that's also, again, just to that point, that's why I like doing the free work in the beginning, getting some tests. And how do you write free work? I mean, you can go into any copywriting job board and just say, I'm going to write you some free copy. You may not get the best clients you're going to want long-term, but what you're going to get is, again, just that little extra validation, because I can tell you you're good, but it's kind of like your mom telling you you're good. You paid me to join this. And so in your mind, even though I'm not going to lie to you, if you suck, I'll say, you got to really improve on this shit right here.
Yeah, my wife and I were chatting about that. Like she gave me a compliment. She's like, I'm going to give you this compliment, but when somebody else gives it to you, it means more because they're not your spouse. I'm like, fair enough, baby. You're right. Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So that's the first part. Just kind of got to get some validation, just to prove to yourself that you don't completely suck, even though you're a beginner. The second part, and this is why I like the focusing on like the business part of copywriting, is you got to get a shitload of like leads, man, because when you're so stuck on, especially in the beginning, like if you're stuck trying to like work with 3 people you've talked to that month that were referred to you or you found on a job board, or you have to close them or you're not eating. And it's like a very shitty situation to be in, because now your back's against the wall and you're writing for stuff
and you have no power. You have no power in the negotiation whatsoever.
Yeah,
and even if they don't know it, even if the client doesn't know it, they feel it. Right.
100%.
Like if you've got, like, John Carlton used to talk about getting your fuck you money, right? Like get 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is that you need to like cover a few months of rent and everything else so that you don't need the job. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I mean, people smell desperation. I mean, they can just feel that.
It's like dating, right? Like if you're a guy, like I have a good friend, one of my favorite people in the world, but he only like meets a woman like once every 6 months. So every single one matters a lot. Right.
Oh, God.
He just isn't good with girls or with women or whatever else. But every time he does, and there's some flirtation or something, he messes it up because it's so important that it's that one thing, as opposed to being like, well, flirt with a bunch of girls. There's women everywhere. It's okay. Which was not how I saw things 20 years ago either. So I get it, but still.
Yeah. Well, that's true, man. That's actually that's a really good comparison to it, because that's exactly what it's like when you're a copywriter. You're like that dude who's like talking to the client who has a bunch of dudes coming up to her, you know, pitching her basically.
And you're like, oh, maybe
come hang out with me.
As opposed to having some swagger, right? You got to have some swagger. You got to be like, yeah, man, it's going to be great for you if you do.
Well, and the way you have that swagger is when you're in demand. And so how do you get in demand? You can do the organic way, like what we were talking about, going to events, kind of building up everything organically. You can 100% do that. But if you've got like $20 a day or something you can spend, you can do like a little story ad on Instagram and get like 2 to 5 people a day reaching out to you. Doesn't mean 2 to 5 of them are all going to close, but you have 2 to 5 people.
You get leads, man. You get leads
every single day, dude. Yeah. That's powerful. Like that makes you feel more confident, because now you're like, I don't have time to be on a call with a tire kicker. So like you start asking different questions that are more directive. So you feel like someone isn't going to be you're
qualifying them instead of them qualifying.
Oh, 100%. Like I've done that with some of these Instagram leads, because some of them are brick and mortar businesses. And I've had 2 experiences with brick and mortar business. Some are really great because they're serious business owners. They don't understand the marketing shit. They just want to hire a marketing guy. You do the thing, or marketing lady, or whatever. But, or you have the other one that's like, what is this copywriting shit? I get all my stuff through word of mouth. I don't do this online marketing. So I am just very quick to like separate those 2 on a call if I start feeling it. Like if they're starting to say stuff like, yeah, I don't know about this marketing stuff. I'm already doing really well just posting like on my Facebook. I'm like, hey, no worries, man. No problem at all. This is a service that you'd have to invest in. Sometimes we have things as cheap as a few $100, but typically it's a couple thousand. Is that something you'd be able to do, assuming we're a good fit and I answer all your questions on the call? Is that something you'd be ready to commit to, or is that like so far out of reach you'll never do that? And I like ask them straight up sometimes in the beginning of the call.
Yeah, you got it.
And that just shocks them, and then I can make the quick separation if they're going to be a tire kicker or if they're not. And sometimes if they say no, we're open to something like that, just has to make sense. Perfect. Now I know you're a real person. I can talk to you, but you can't do that if you've only got 3 people you're talking to every month because you're like, fuck, I don't want to piss this person off.
No, everybody's way too valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. But now I'm like, if you're not going to be a good fit, totally cool. But I have like another person on Instagram DMing me and I need to get on a call with
them. But that
them.
just makes them, I had somebody I turned down the other day, a guy, I wouldn't even get on the phone with him actually. Like we had a scheduled thing. I saw his, I read through his form. Basically, I was like in the form, he said, I probably don't qualify, but I looked through his form. He did not qualify, right? He had no experience as a copywriter whatsoever, whatever. And I told him that, and man, he got offended. Oh my God. He got he's like, well, you're making an assumption and blah, blah, blah. And then like, he was so offended that I was like, and now I'm really glad that I'm not going to get on the line with you because we are obviously not going to get along if this is your attitude. Yeah.
Right. Well, dude, that's really funny. That's another thing that I started teaching. Once you can get down to getting leads, like doing a paid traffic. I like paid traffic because you just have control. You know what I mean? You know how many people.
Well, also you can control your fame to a certain degree, right? Like you can basically, like even now with my stuff, right? We're buying some traffic and shit. When I was doing my launch back in December, right? People were like, dude, you're everywhere. You're like the biggest thing happening in all of marketing right now. I'm like, well, for you, yeah, because you're in my you're in my bubble, but my bubble is only 2,000 people, but that's all I needed. But to those 2,000 people, I was the biggest thing happening. And that's all that matters is that it's their perception.
Yes. Okay. So that's actually another thing that I was gonna. So one of the things I started doing on my Instagram thing is what we just talked about to get leads in. But the other thing is I have just like no pitch. It's so weird. I don't know if it's really doing anything, but in my head, it's doing something. But I have no pitch, like pictures of myself with my daughter or my girl and just like family happy. We'll always smile, just trying to put out positive feels and vibes, you know?
Well, people buy people, right? That's what they're not buying. I mean, even with my stuff that I teach, right? So much of the pig method stuff is like, you were talking before how I'm so genuine and open about things.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm telling people to do. So I better do it.
Right.
And it works too. People want to buy from somebody. Like most of my sales calls, I don't talk about the program at all. We're just becoming friends, really, right? And then people want to buy from that. The more you can genuinely put yourself out there, I think the more successful you will generally be, unless you're like a sociopath, like serial killer or something. Then you should keep that under wraps.
For all you serial killers.
Hey man, it's 1% of the population are sociopaths. 1%.
That'd be an interesting thing to say during like an event or a speech. All right, so 1% of you guys here are fucking psychos.
Yeah, they are.
1,000 of you, so that means X. I'm not good at math, but whatever. Is that 100?
It's like 10. It's good. You know, it's 10
people. Hey, there's 10 psychos in here. FYI, it might be the.
Well, no. There are more. I would honestly say marketing world has a higher percentage of sociopaths than the general population does. Actually, yeah.
I could totally see that.
Yeah, because it's about manipulation. I mean, you can see it as manipulation versus persuasion. Business in general has a lot of people who lack empathy, I would say. So makes sense.
You know, I used to think I was a sociopath.
Yeah, me too. And then what happened?
I had my daughter, so this only changed last year. This is I'm dead serious.
Interesting.
I really thought, because I didn't really feel for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, man. I saw a lot of weird shit too.
I get it.
Shit.
I felt a similar thing once back in the day, right? Because with my bipolar, it's interesting. I'm a very empathetic person until my bipolar triggers, and then I have no empathy at all. And as my wife says, like, no empathy, Chris Haddad is basically a supervillain, right? Like it's basically like, oh, I know a lot about certain things, and now I have no like ethical limiter that's kind of keeping it from kind of becoming a thing at that point. But like I remember like at one point being like, man, am I a sociopath? And I read some books about it. And if you read books about sociopathy, what they'll tell you is there's one called the Psychopath test, which is really good. Check it out. And in it, the author at one point says, hey, if you're reading this right now, you might be wondering if you're a psychopath. And then he says, but if you're wondering that, it means you're not.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Like if you are a sociopath, it would never dawn on you to think about that in this moment.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're probably, I don't think you are, but I understand where that can come from if you don't, because I remember what it's like to just be like, why am I not feeling anything right now?
Yeah. That's
an unpleasant feeling.
It was very weird. I mean, I would have like people close to me like pass away. I saw a dude get shot in front of me and like die. And
didn't feel anything. Yeah.
I felt nothing.
Or maybe you just, I mean, you might have.
It may have. Yeah.
That's a very traumatic experience for anybody.
It was very interesting. And And then when I realized, it like hit me, because I had just accepted. I was like, I think I'm like 3/4 of a psycho or something. I don't really know. Like there's something about me, it's a little off. But then I I had my kid, and then I started seeing every other parent and kid, and I saw every person as like a child, and I just started feeling for them. Like I would look at you, I'm like, Chris as a kid, how did he grow up? Poor kid.
He had a lot of hair. He had a lot of hair.
Or whatever, you know.
And like, no self-esteem whatsoever. Yeah.
I just feel for those people. There's a kid. I live on like on a lake, and there's like a little park right there, and so there's kids who will go to the park, and like there's always this one kid, I don't see him anymore, but there used to be a kid who would just hang out there by himself. And I made this whole story before. I never gave a fuck. Right when I had my daughter, like a few months after, I'm like, maybe I should go talk to this kid. He's always there by himself.
Oh my God.
Like, where's his parents? Like, what's he doing with poor
Parenthood
kid?
Fucked you up, dude.
I'm like, bro. I'm like, I started feeling more than I ever really even wanted to. I'm like watching shit on TV, getting teary-eyed. I'm like,
oh my God. How did you handle that though? How did you handle like transitioning from being a cold bastard to be, I mean, that sounds like a very intense experience, honestly.
So this is another reason I like poker, just to get, this is very weird. So poker is very social, and nobody, like, I was used to talking to only entrepreneurs and marketers, and it just got a little boring, man. It's just the same conversation, you know.
Crushing it.
Yeah, right. And so when I started playing poker, I started like realizing that, you know, I can get along with all these types of people from all walks of life, and I'm becoming more empathetic towards what they're doing on the table. Like, it's so, I mean, do you play poker at all?
Yeah, I mean, I have a game. I haven't played much in the last couple of years, but I have like a Monday night game I've gone to off and on for years. We play Hold'em. You know, it's like $20 buy-in, Texas Hold'em, nothing serious. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so so with Hold'em, I mean, there's a lot of the math stuff, and that's actually the stuff I've now focused on a lot more on how to play, but there's still feelings, man. Like I get this weird juju from people, and before I would just ignore it completely, but now I'm like more open to it, and it's like, I don't know, my reads are right. I don't know what's going on.
Well, you're playing the person, not the cards, right? Like that's what I love about in-person poker anyway, is like you get to read your friends and bullshit. And there's nothing better than bluffing one of your best friends down. Right. And then like you just fuck with them by showing them your card. Like, hey, look, by the way, I had nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. Like that stuff has really helped me just kind of accept, all right, maybe I am more emotional than I thought. Maybe I was just blocking it out because I was like, that's just, you're not supposed to feel these things. But now I just allow it to happen. And I don't know, I feel like I just play better. I'm a more well-rounded player and person, because I'm like, I can like, I don't want to say feel their emotions, but I can like, I don't know, man. I just,
well, you're more in key. I mean, it makes sense too. If you have a child, you have to learn to be really in key with their nonverbal communication, right? Because they're not actually verbal at all at the beginning.
That's true, yeah.
So it probably does make you more observant about people in general, about picking up their little nuances of what they're going on. There's also like cognitive empathy versus emotional empathy, right? So like cognitive empathy is like, oh, I can see that you're sad. I understand why you're sad, but I don't feel anything about it. As opposed to you know, quote, emotional empathy is like, oh, I can feel your pain. Right.
What sucks. I hate
my mirror neurons are causing me to feel the same thing that you're feeling in that situation.
Dude, I refunded a dude $100 because I felt so bad for him, because I could tell it crushed him. It was at the casino. It was like, dude, I don't know. And I'm just playing with him, and he could tell we're playing at like 2-5, so it's like $1,000 buy-in. This guy was on his last like $100 and shit. He's fucking getting wrecked left and right. Oh, something happened. I took like his last $100, but I refunded him. You could tell this guy was like, he wasn't sure how he was getting home. I'm like, oh my God. But he didn't say anything. It was just all in his face. Like I could tell he was just like, he wasn't pissed, but you could just see everything dropped. Like it wasn't just a normal loss for him. So I didn't want to embarrass the dude. So I'm like, right when he walked out, I'm like, bro, here's $100, man. Here's a little rebate on that. She's like, dude, you have no idea how much this saved me. Like, I was like, dude, you shouldn't be playing fucking 2-5. Like, you should not be playing this game right now. But I had never done that. And that was another thing. Like, poker just kept convincing me I'm not this psychopath, because I'm like, I would never have fucking refunded anybody $100 in a poker game. I'm like, you lost, fool. Like, this shit is mine. But anyways, it's interesting how this whole conversation started, because I feel like you're right. There's a lot of can't hear you. What happened?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear
you. For some reason, I'm in here twice. Now. Okay, well, I'm going to start the recording again. I'll just pass it on to the people to fix that. So there we
Got
go.
it.
Please ask the host. I have to ask the host to give me permission to record. Oh wait, here we go. It should be fixed now. Here we go. I was like, I'm gonna. It says it's recording. So for those who are going to be editing this, here we go. Okay, we're back after our technical issue. So I'm sure there will be some kind of splice of something that gets us in there. What I was saying is I'm going to call this episode How Poker Convinced Me I'm Not a Psychopath. Because I'm always trying to find a good title for the episode during the actual show. My favorite I came up with so far is for Scott Ruick, which was How to Scale Your Business While Your Spouse Hates You, which I quite liked.
I like that too. I gotta say though, I think the Psychopath one is gonna win. That's a good one.
It's a good one. How Poker Convinced Me I'm Not a Psychopath is pretty good. I think that's gonna get a good. It's a lot better than like what most are like. 4 tips to write a great headline. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. That's not what. No, we're not doing that. That's not what my show is about.
Well, dude, I'm really excited that I was able to come on the show. This was super
man, it's been great to have you. I love just getting to like again, like when one of you and I we messenger sometimes, but one of you and I just like shot the shit for an hour and been like, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? Tell me a little bit more about your program. And we have a modest but growing audience. So if there's anybody that would be a good potential fit for you, maybe we can give them a link of some kind, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I have our Copywriting Unleashed mentorship, and inside that group, we show you how to write copy, but it's more focused on the business of copywriting. So this is great for folks who already know how to write some copy, but just want to figure out how to get clients and how to get deals, how to get retainers, and how to really be in demand. So that's the focus of our mentorship. We also have a second tier to the mentorship as well, where we actually provide you with copywriting leads that come to me from my Instagram ads. So if you're interested in that at all, you can send me a DM on Facebook, Carlos Redlich, or you can go to trythisbiz.com and enter your email there, watch the video, and book a call with me.
And mention that you heard it on the Chris Haddad show, because I want to see if this actually gets anybody or not getting in.
100%, absolutely.
100%. I have no reservations at all about recommending Carlos. And if you are somebody who's a copywriter who wants to learn how to make get more clients and things like that, I recommend him absolutely. And not just because of his giant smile and his the proof that we have discovered during this call that he is not, in fact, a psychopath or a sociopath, as far as I can tell.
I love it, man. Thank you.
All right, man. For those who are listening, do me a favor. If you enjoyed the show, go over to iTunes, go over to Spotify, and leave a review, a good one or a bad one. I don't really care. Just leave a review of some kind. And if you have any comments or questions, email me at chris@thechrisHaddadshow.com or hit me up on Facebook. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and that's it. Bye-bye.